Welcome to the deep dive. Today we got something really interesting. We're exploring a theory called the Mobius Inspired Cyclical Theory, or MICT for short, and we're incredibly fortunate to have the creator of the theory right here with us to talk us through it. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here to talk about MICT.
Fantastic. So, for everyone listening, the basic idea, as I understand it, is that MICT looks at reality through this lens of interconnectedness and cycles, kind of like that Mobius strip, you know? The one with only one side.
Exactly. I use the Mobius strip as a mathematical model.
We've gone through the materials you provided, and it's fascinating stuff, touching on AI, quantum physics, business, even web development. So, our mission today is really to get a solid grasp of MICT's core ideas, straight from the source. So, maybe let's start at the beginning. What led you to develop MICT? There were existing ways of thinking, just not cutting it.
That's a great starting point. Yes, absolutely. I saw a pattern across different fields. A heavy reliance on linear thinking. You know, A leads to B leads to C. And also, knowledge tends to get stuck in silos. Physics over here, biology over there, business strategy somewhere else entirely.
Right, like they don't talk to each other enough.
Precisely. These linear, siloed approaches often miss the bigger picture, the feedback loops, the surprising connections, the way things influence each other in complex webs. Reality often doesn't work in a straight line. That's where the Mobius strip came in. Its structure, that single continuous surface, seemed like a perfect symbol for a more, well, holistic and interconnected view.
Okay, so the Mobius strip isn't just a cool name, it's fundamental. You talk about the Mobius principle as the heart of it all. Could you break that down for us?
Sure. The Mobius principle really boils down to three key interconnected ideas, all inspired by the strip itself. First, there's interconnectedness. Just like you can trace the entire surface of a Mobius strip without lifting your finger, MICT posits that seemingly separate things are actually deeply linked.
So everything affects everything else, in a way.
In a way, yes. Cause and effect isn't just a one-way street. It's often cyclical, where effects loop back and become causes. And it's interconnected, meaning a change here can create ripples way over there, maybe in unexpected places.
Yeah, you see that everywhere once you start looking like global supply chains or ecological systems.
Exactly, that kind of complex web of influence.
Okay, so interconnectedness is one. What's the second part of the Mobius principle?
The second is its cyclical nature. The strip forms a continuous loop, right? That loop symbolizes the dynamic, constantly changing aspect of reality. Things aren't static. They flow in patterns and cycles that repeat and evolve. Think about economic cycles, boom and bust, or natural cycles like seasons or life cycles. MICT suggests this isn't accidental, it's fundamental to how complex systems work. It's a continuous transformation.
Interesting. So, not just straight lines, but rhythms and repetitions. And the third idea is nonlinearity. I guess that relates to the twist in the strip.
Precisely. That twist is key. It represents nonlinearity. In purely linear systems, you expect proportionate responses. You push a little, it moves a little. You push a lot, it moves a lot.
Makes sense.
But reality often isn't like that. Sometimes a tiny change can trigger a huge, unexpected outcome. Think of the butterfly effect, or maybe a viral social media post.
Or a market crash started by something seemingly small.
Exactly. And feedback loops are critical here too. When the output of a system feeds back into its own input, you get complex, sometimes unpredictable behavior. So this non-linear aspect really challenges that old clockwork Newtonian view of the universe and pushes us to look for those surprises, those emergent properties.
Okay, so interconnectedness, cyclical nature, and non-linearity. That gives us a solid foundation. Now let's talk applications, because you've explored quite a few. Jarvitz, the AI system, seems really built on MICT. How does that work?
Yes, MICT is baked into Jarvitz's architecture. Its adaptive learning, for instance, is fundamentally cyclical. It observes, acts, gets feedback, adjusts, and repeats that loop. It's not just crunching data, it's learning iteratively.
Like the MICT cycle itself.
Exactly. And then there's something called meta-MICT within Jarvitz. This allows it to actually generate new MICT cycles. giving it a higher degree of autonomy and letting it learn in ways we didn't explicitly program. That reflects the nonlinearity and emergence principles.
Oh, okay.
We also have the Guardian cycle, focusing on human-AI collaboration and ethics. That's all about interconnectedness, ensuring constant feedback between human values and what the AI is doing.
That seems crucial.
It is. The goal is a truly adaptable general-purpose AI. And we also built in separations between different MICT cycles. They're interconnected within their function, but a failure in one cycle won't necessarily bring the whole system down. It provides resilience.
That's really smart design. It's amazing how that abstract framework translates. Now, shifting gears a bit, you even used React web development example tasklist.js. How does MICT show up in something like coding? For the non-coders listening, what's the connection?
Yeah, it might seem like a leap, but even software has these cyclical processes. In that tasklist.js example, think about checking off a task on a to-do list app. You interact, click the checkbox that changes the app's internal data, its state. React, the library, detects that change and automatically updates the screen to show the task is completed.
So input, state change, screen update, that's a cycle.
Exactly. It's a core loop in modern UI development. You interact, state updates, UI renders, then maybe the user interacts again. It's constantly cycling. Plus, React has features like useEffect that let components react after they render, maybe to fetch new data or clean something up, creating another layer of cyclical interaction. It shows how even structured systems rely on these iterative, interconnected flows.
That's a great way to put it, makes it really concrete.
Okay, let's talk business growth. This seems like a really practical area for MICT. You have this map, iterate, check, transform cycle. Can you walk us through that? Absolutely. Business is rarely linear, right? It's constant change and adaptation. The MICT framework provides a structure for that. MAP is about understanding your current situation, market, customers, resources, goals, really getting the lay of the land.
Step 1, know where you are.
Right. Then iterate is about action, trying things, launching campaigns, testing product ideas, putting plans into motion.
Doing stuff.
Then the crucial check stage. This is where you measure results, gather data, analyze what happened. Did that campaign work? Why or why not? What did we learn?
Okay, analysis.
Then finally, transform. Based on what you learned in the check phase, you adapt. You refine your strategy, maybe pivot your approach, change your processes, and then you map the new landscape and the cycle continues.
So it's continuous improvement built in.
Exactly. It's an ongoing loop of learning and adapting. We've actually been developing personalized MICT growth plans based on this, offering guidance, metrics, tailored insights. And we've thought about how to make it accessible with different pricing tiers and questionnaires designed for specific business types, from startups validating an idea to established restaurants or e-commerce stores.
Very practical. This sounds really useful. You also mentioned attracting investors to the Board Brains Consortium. How does MICT influence how you talk to different types of investors?
Well, investors aren't monolithic, right? They have different goals, different perspectives. MICT encourages us to map their perspective first.
Understand the investor.
Yes, for a venture capitalist focused on high growth, we'd emphasize MICT's potential for disruption, its adaptability, its ethical foundation as a unique selling point. For a strategic partner, we might focus on synergy, how MICT could enhance their existing operations or open new markets together. And for, say, an impact investor, we'd highlight the potential for positive societal change, the human-centered aspects. It's about connecting our MICT-driven vision to their specific values and goals, showing that interconnectedness.
That's a really nuanced approach to investor relations. Stepping back again, how does MICT work as a general guide for, say, leadership or complex decision-making?
Leaders today face incredible complexity, constant change, lots of conflicting demands. MICT offers a mindset shift. Instead of seeing things in isolation, you see the interconnected system.
Seeing the whole chessboard, not just one piece.
Kind of, yeah. By thinking cyclically, leaders can better anticipate downstream consequences, not just immediate effects. It encourages looking for feedback loops, Understanding interdependencies. It aligns well with systems thinking. It pushes leaders away from seeking simple linear fixes and towards more holistic, adaptive strategies that embrace complexity and potential surprises.
A more sophisticated way to navigate uncertainty, perhaps. And you're not just applying it, you're working on formalizing MICT academically. What's involved there?
Yes, that's important for grounding the theory. We're developing academic papers to really flesh out the core principles with rigorous definitions, detailed explanations, and solid examples from various fields. We want to show how MICT connects to and also builds upon existing ideas in systems theory, complexity science, cybernetics, things like that. It involves providing that context and clearly articulating MICT's unique contributions.
Establishing its place in the intellectual landscape. Makes sense. Now, you hinted at some really cutting-edge stuff too. Quantum computing. How could MICT possibly connect there? Can you simplify that for us?
Okay, this is definitely more exploratory, but it's intriguing. Quantum computing often uses complex numbers to describe quantum states. These numbers have basically a size or magnitude and a direction or angle. We typically use our familiar base 10 system. But what if we represented these complex numbers, especially their magnitude and angle form, using a base 60 system? Base 60 has historical ties to angles and circles, like degrees in a circle, minutes, seconds.
Oh, interesting connection.
It's just an idea we're playing with, guided by MICT's focus on cycles and interconnectedness, which we explore in a concept called MICT Third. Could a base 60 framework offer a more, maybe intuitive or efficient way to handle certain quantum calculations? It's not about changing the physics, but potentially finding a better language or representation for some problems.
That's pretty mind-bending. Staying with tech, you mentioned zero-trust architecture, OMICT. What is zero-trust generally, and how does MICT fit in cybersecurity?
So, traditional security often relied on a castle and moat idea. Trust everything inside the network walls, distrust everything outside. Zero trust flips that. The motto is never trust, always verify.
Trust no one.
Essentially, yes. Every user, every device, every connection needs to be verified continuously, regardless of whether it's inside or outside the supposed perimeter.
So, traditional security often relied on a castle and moat idea. Trust everything inside the network walls, distrust everything outside. Zero trust flips that. The motto is never trust, always verify, trust no one.
Essentially, yes. Every user, every device, every connection needs to be verified continuously, regardless of whether it's inside or outside the supposed perimeter.
Okay, so where does MICT come in?
Our Open MICT Zero Trust Architecture, OMST, uses MICT cycles to make this verification process dynamic and adaptive. MICT cycles run at different levels, verifying identities, checking device health, monitoring traffic, enforcing policies. It's a continuous loop of checking and adapting.
Like the map, iterate, check, transform, cycle again.
Very much so. And a key part is crypto agility. The check phase constantly assesses the cryptographic methods being used against known threats, including potential future threats from quantum computers. If a weakness is found or a better algorithm emerges, the transform stage can trigger a seamless shift to stronger cryptography. We also have a layered hierarchical structure using nested MICT cycles for defense in depth.
So, MICT helps make security proactive and future-proof. Very cool. You also briefly mentioned valuing human capital using blockchain and tokens tied to equality. That sounds ambitious.
It is, and it's definitely early days, more conceptual. But the core idea is, can we find ways to value human contribution and potential that go beyond just market rates for skills and are grounded in basic human rights and equality?
How would that work?
We're exploring if blockchain, with its transparency, could support a system of tokens representing maybe an individual's fundamental right to participate, to contribute meaningfully. The MICT framework could then provide a dynamic model for understanding how these rights and contributions interact within a society, considering a much broader set of factors than current economic models do. The all are equal idea is foundational. Everyone starts with that inherent right. It's about envisioning a more equitable system.
That's a really profound idea to think about. One last connection you drew was with neuroscience, object recognition in the brain. How do MICT principles parallel brain function?
Well, the brain is the ultimate complex interconnected system, right? So looking for analogies makes sense. In object recognition, neuroscience talks about different pathways, like the ventral stream figuring out what an object is, and the dorsal stream figuring out where it is and how to interact with it.
The what and where pathways.
Exactly. These streams don't work in isolation. They're massively interconnected, constantly exchanging information and updating our perception. The ventral stream seems to integrate features and spatial info together. This dynamic interaction, this constant updating and integration, feels very resonant with MICT's principles of interconnectedness and cyclical processing. It's preliminary, but exploring these parallels might teach us about both brains and better AI design.
It really shows the potential breadth of this framework. Now, you've stressed the importance of collaboration for MICT's future. Why is that so critical?
Because tackling complexity requires collective intelligence. MICT is ambitious, and no single person or small group has all the answers. Open research allows diverse perspectives to challenge, refine, and build upon the ideas.
Getting more eyes on it.
Exactly. It helps find blind spots, sparks new ideas, and accelerates progress.
That makes a lot of sense. Building a community to build the theory. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating, a real deep dive into the Mobius Inspired Cyclical Theory. You've really illuminated the core principles, interconnectedness, cycles, nonlinearity, and walked us through an incredible range of potential applications, from AI and business right through to quantum concepts and neuroscience. For everyone listening, I hope this gives you a strong sense of MICT directly from its creator. It definitely makes you think differently, doesn't it? About how limited purely linear thinking can be. Maybe take a moment and consider, how might this idea of cycles and interconnectedness apply in your own field, or even just in how you approach problems in daily life? What happens when you look beyond the straight line? Definitely keep an eye out for the software and framework documentation releases. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us today. It's been truly insightful.